Okay, welcome to State of My Art podcast. My name is Liorti. I am a very tall musician with way too much gear. Thank you for joining me on the show. On today's episode of the pod, I sit down with Mike James Yorke. Mikey is also a multi-instrumentalist. He's played several Rosedale shows with me as a drummer, and I think he's even played some acoustic shows accompanying me on the guitar. This episode is a lot of reminiscing, a lot of stories from the past, a lot of catching up. I haven't got to hang out with Mikey quite as much as I used to when we would make lots of noise for hours and hours on end down here and in the garage. So here's one more hour of us making some noise down here. My conversation with Mike James Yorke happened on December 4th or 5th. One of those two. I can't remember. I had a hard drive crash and he came to pick it up to bring it to Best Buy where he works. We never ended up getting any of the files back. But December 4th or 5th, he was here and we had this conversation. All right, let's do it then. We're really doing it. Mikey Yorke.
Buddy.
Thanks for being on the show, finally.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It's been an interesting year, to say the least.
Yep. For our non-Western New York, Massachusetts viewers who don't know Mikey Yorke, Mikey Yorke's been a drummer of mine for a couple years, and he has traveled a bit with me. And maybe we can get into some of the stories at the border that you've experienced. I call it the Mikey Yorke. I recently also got Mikey Yorked by the U.S. Border Customs, and I can tell you about that. I got that same sheet, that same piece of paper that you got. Yeah.
That's a time.
Yeah, man. But, you know, with everything that's going on, it wasn't a surprise. And then with the MacGyver that we tried to pull with you, it wasn't really a surprise either. Now that I look back on it, it's like they know. they know when you are up to something, and everyone will tell you that. You can never lie to the U.S. Border Customs because they'll smell it on you. And
we tried to pull some stupid shit that weekend.
Yeah. And all it was, I mean, we weren't trying to, they just knew something was up, but we should have just been honest. So initially where it all started was when you were going to be like our road guy, merch guy, I was like, maybe we should get Mikey Yorke a work permit, because you had crossed the border when it was me, Brad, and Justin.
That's right. Doing
Warped Tour, and we would basically, you and Brad would drive down, and then we'd pick you up at the mall.
Yeah, no, that was a good one.
So we were pulling that shit, and then we're like, and then I'm like, maybe I should add Mikey to the work permit, and then I'm like about to do it. I have all your paperwork, and then I'm like, no, you know what? Maybe next year, because I don't even think. I think I'm just going to be going without a merch guy for the next little bit, or whatever. You were in school. It was like, for whatever reason, we were like, maybe this is a waste of money to get you on the work permit. But then you learned all my songs on drums, and it was like, shit. I didn't see that coming, but we should have got you a work permit.
Yeah.
And we tried to cross the hardest border, Michigan border, but we knew that it wasn't going to work, especially there.
Yeah.
They got your van. They go through everything. So I put you on a bus, a Greyhound, a one-way ticket.
I still remember it. I think so. The only reason I think I went through with it at the time was I broke up with my girlfriend at the time. And I was in that screw this, let's go on tour phase. I was just like, what's the worst that can happen in my life right now after this really messy breakup? So I remember, I think, where was it? We drove to
Windsor. Is that where you got on the bus?
Yeah.
Or did you take the bus from?
No, it was Windsor.
Okay.
So, yeah, you dropped me off. I remember I slept 5 hours straight. You woke me up at the bus station, and you basically like, all right, hop on. And we got our ticket, and it was about I think it had to have been like 4 or 5 a.m. It was really early. But So I'm thinking like, all right, I got my luggage. That's it. I got nothing else. I have like a penny in my bank account.
Yeah, we have a show the next day. I've got all your gear in the van and trailer.
Yeah, and hop on this bus thinking, what's the worst that can happen? And obviously.
So what did they tell you? They were like, how are you? Well, first of all, what was your story again? You were going to go to Michigan State in Flint?
Something like that, yeah.
And check out the campus?
Yeah, campus. And we kind of had the plan, and we knew someone, or you knew someone who went to the school and was going to be my chauffeur or my, I guess chauffeur / tour guide.
I forgot about that part.
Yeah, and obviously they weren't buying it. They searched my phone. I had no text messages on it because I deleted everything that day after the breakup. Because I was like, fuck this. I'm leaving the face of the planet. I'm going on tour forever. Not texting anyone back. So they were like, okay, why don't you have any text messages? You're a teenage kid. You're 18. You should have some what's going on, man? And I'm like, I don't know. I just got out of a relationship and I deleted everything off my phone. And they're like, no.
Oh, so they didn't like that. I didn't know that.
It was literally the typical episode of border security.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I was detained almost 2 hours, something like that. So they took my phone, they're searching, and they're like, all right, what are you really doing? I kept my story. I was just like, I'm checking out schools, man. I just got my heart broken. I'm soul searching. Oh, well, how are you going to get around? I don't know. I'll figure it out. And it was like, I think I said I was going to hop on a train and make a loop.
Yeah.
Back up to Buffalo and get my parents to pick me up because that's the closest border to Brampton.
Right.
And they searched through. They shredded my bag. They cut everything open. I remember most vividly. I had a lot of socks because we were going to go on tour. It was going to be sweaty. It was going to be disgusting.
Yeah.
So I think I had close to 20 pairs of socks. And they're like, all right, what do you got in these socks? And I'm like, search them. Just literally, I was like, open my bag, man. I got nothing. Search it. And that was it.
And then they didn't like that you didn't have, or they were like, come back with your bank statements.
Bank statements, more paperwork from the school. And
yeah, they didn't like that you didn't have SAT scores.
Anything. We didn't have the greatest plan going in, but
no, because I mean, I had done this sort of thing with Nikhil and other guys.
Well, even when we were going to Warped, we crossed together. I think it's me and you crossed together at Buffalo.
Oh yeah, you crossed in the van with me.
Yeah, for Warped.
When Justin, so it was Justin and Brad drove down.
I think Brad was working late, and that's why he couldn't cross with us.
Okay.
So him and Justin went down separately.
Yeah.
Met us at, I think it was like a carpool.
I used to just say, yeah, he's coming with me because my parents don't want me to drive alone. This was like 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
Or 2011.
That was 2011.
And then we should have just did that this time too, but I was like, no, they're gonna see equipment. They're gonna ask if you're playing.
I think it was less because when it comes down to the itinerary, there was literally only one show for Cleveland. Or
that
Cincy.
Too, right. We were going on like a 20-day tour.
Yeah, for when we got stopped at Michigan, And I think I remember piping up. I was like, he's not paying me. We're not getting paid. And they were just like, okay. And
so the next time when we initially crossed, right.
Yeah. Because we should have just kept it
honest. But I think Michigan, we still would have got sent back, or they would have found merch or something.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about,
it's a stressful time.
They are the most intimidating border crossing probably in the world.
Yeah.
I don't travel that much, so
they deal with a lot of shit. It makes sense. They deal with people smuggling guns over all the time.
Smuggling fresh water over to Flint. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sucks because you probably spent over 200 hours working on those 7 songs.
We grinded, man.
Like, just getting your chops up to speed,
dude,
was hours and hours and hours. And I guess you at least became a hell of a drummer out of it.
Yeah, I'm thankful.
But you didn't get to put it to work.
I know.
Until I got back, we did a couple shows around.
We did our thing. We killed it. We did the local circuit a couple times. We did Fenland Falls. That was a blast. Yeah,
and you were in Dougie Cousins' band, who we had on here, episode 3.
Yeah.
And now what are you up to? You're doing some guitar covers?
Yeah, I like to classify myself as a semi-retired social media musician. So it's
multi-instrumentalist kind of too, I guess.
Yeah.
You're still playing drums?
When I can. Like, with living in an apartment, you don't have that much flexibility, obviously, with noise. So
that's what sucks about
the good
drums.
The good thing with guitar and vocal is, you can sing as quiet as this, and you can make it sound like, a full orchestra doing it. Same thing with guitar. You can route in headphones. You're good. The only way you can really get away with an apartment is if you have electric drums. Well, guess what? Those are money, and I don't have that. So it's, So so the last time I actually played in a band at a show was probably 3 years in February, roughly.
That's not insanely long ago.
No, it's not. And
especially given the fact that for the last year, nobody has played a live show in a band.
So but at the same time, I've also kind of come to terms with, I'm probably going to change my mind about this in the next year, but I've come to terms with the fact that I probably won't be in a band for as long as I want to, kind of thing, right? I kind of want to play on my own terms when it comes down to it. Kind of like when I was in Roadside and I was in Rosedale for the time being, and I was in Malenko's side project for the time being.
Right.
And then
Bosa. Shout out to Malenko.
What's good, buddy? Miss you. And then I was doing something else as well. So I was playing by my own rules. Meanwhile, going to college and grinding there.
I mean, I feel like that's the lifestyle, for lack of better words, that a lot of musicians end up just falling into, especially drummers. Is hey, I don't want to be married to one band for the next 10 years just because loyalty. Unless something is substantial is happening, or there's a big budget or money's coming in and there's a lot of success, then I'm gonna spread myself out to some other projects that might also take off or just are fun doing. Because essentially that's really the only reason you're playing music for the first decade or two if you don't hit some lottery. So, I mean, I don't think it's uncommon for you to be in those 4 or 5 projects and then, have nothing but social media to be playing drums. And that's a lot of people's situation right now. Some of the best drummers I know are just I'm just an online drummer.
Yeah. And you know what? Eventually, when I get a place where I can actually play music loud, it'll come down to that. It'll be, a little bit more on the social media platform as opposed to, being in a commitment like a band. I think over time, jumping from band to band and, playing some pretty sweet gigs like Warped and, opening for some of my favorite bands, it got to a point where it was all right, I'm in this really good band right now. We're called Cheap Date. We're really making it. And then we break up. And you're just well, shit. And then you move to another really good band called Weigh the Anchor, who has the potential, but I think at the time we were just doing things a little bit too fast, and we were thinking with our wallets as opposed to our heads. And then you break up with that band, and you're just at that point, I think I was just screw it, done. I was so fed up with the way those last couple years kind of ramped up back to back with both those bands being, a pretty big potential in that scene. and then just shoo.
Or just the fact that they took themselves seriously to be in any sort of band that's like, hey, we're gonna actually try and take this somewhere. There's gonna be clashing of ideas of who thinks what is right or what everybody's goals are out of the project. Yeah,
and nothing against those bands, you know, like probably some of the greatest years of my life. You know, Cheap Date was that was probably my first actual like big success, because they recruited me, and then our first show as a band was opening for Gob.
Oh, nice.
Right?
One of my favorite Canadian bands.
Yeah, and then I think like we played a couple local shows after that, and then the next one was Warped Tour, Toronto. And it was just like, cool, this is actually going somewhere. This is really cool. And then we just got offers from like Silverstein and Seaway to play with them, and then even like what are they called? Sumo Cycle. Like Sky Sweetenham from back in the day.
Oh, yeah, I remember that name.
Yeah, Sumo Psycho. They're kind of like really, I guess, horror-driven punk rock.
Okay, I haven't heard them, but
they're good. But yeah, we were just Cheap Date got a lot of those offers.
Yeah,
even to like play for like hometown hockey for Rogers. That was crazy.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
out in Peterborough, and we got told to turn down, but you know, of course, expected when you get a punk rock band.
When you wash your ride cymbal, it's going to happen. Any band that washes their ride cymbal is going to be told to turn down at least once every 10 shows.
See, that was a weird one, because that Rogers Hometown Hockey, it had a really solid lineup. I think at the time it had it was us, and then I think it might have been like the Dirty Nil or Pup or someone like that when they were younger. Yeah. And then Teenage Kicks, which was Cain and Abel from back in the day.
Yeah, I remember them.
And those guys can rock. Those guys are friggin' loud. But they told us to turn down.
Yeah, well, you guys were, what, first?
Yeah.
On the bill? That's why. That's why.
And that's exactly why.
When their ears aren't warmed up, that's the worst thing, is like, and you're trying to explain that to someone who doesn't know that, like, look, everything from here on to the rest of the night is going to be louder than us. If you say that, then you're throwing everyone else under the bus.
See, the good thing was we played 2 days of it, so the second day they had it figured out, and they didn't tell us to turn it down. So, but honestly, those were like. That band was probably the best experience I've had being a musician, in like a committed band.
Sure, you know? Yeah, you guys were taking off.
We were going up. We were talking to labels. We were going on tour.
They were from Oshawa, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and you know, some of my best friends were made because of that band.
Nice,
right? Even like the guys in Fortune Cove, Harbor. They took me out pretty much at the same time I was going on tour with Cheap Date. They asked me to come out and fill in for Harbor.
Okay.
So at one
So you were playing two sets a night. Wow.
Oh, well, do you remember that Hamilton show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So that was my first tour. That was my first run with Harbor. And then, so there was, I think, 13 days with Harbor. Take a 1 day break, work that 1 day, work the next day, play a show with Cheap Date that day down in Toronto, day off, head back to Montreal for leg 2 with Harbor for another 7 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 days. And then break for a week and go on another 15-day tour or something like that with Cheap Date. I think I was probably gone as long as you were at one point.
Yeah. But I bet while you were in it, you were just like, I don't mind. I'm ready to go tomorrow.
See, yeah, no, like obviously, like when you're younger, when you're, in your early 20s, and all you do is party, you're just like, let's go, let's do it. Like, I don't care. Let's live the dream right now. This is what it is. And then I think it was probably after day 5, I was getting really, really, I don't know if aggravated is the word, but homesick.
Okay.
Because I was literally just out on tour with 5 dudes in the van.
And then you're in this new van with fresh dudes that are just starting a tour.
With 11 dudes in the van.
Yeah, and like and they're all stoked because it's like tour's just begun, and you're like, I've been out for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember I remember we got into a big fight, or at least I did. I was really angry. I was heated with Cheap Date at one point, just because I was out on the road with Harbor, and I got a notification saying, "Oh, Cheap Date's going on tour."
Oh.
And I was just like, "What? What? When? What?" And I typed in the group chat, and I'm like, "Yo, what? Like, when is this happening?
Yeah.
What's going on? I don't know when I'm getting back." And that's the thing. I might be going on tour with Harbor Extended.
And they're like, well, no, you said you'd be back on the 12th. Our tour starts the 13th.
And that's how it was. And I was so mad. And this is like, I think, day tour of Harbor Tour. And I was heated. And I remember we met up with the guys at the last leg of the tour. And we kind of figured it out. I was like, all right, well, like, I'm sure my employer isn't going to be very happy about me being gone for 2 months, basically. Mm-hmm. But, like, if it's booked, it's booked. I'm not going to get you guys to find, like, a replacement because fuck that. I want to play. That's all it was about. So, like, that summer was absolute chaos. Like, damn. Going on, because that's the longest I've been away from home ever. And then that's the longest string of shows I've played in a row. 3
bands, 3 tours.
Basically.
So, after all that, is that part of the equation as to, you know what, I'm just going to be a social media cat. I'm just going to be a studio cat. And
yeah, yes and no. I think what really killed the vibe was, and nothing against Way the Anchor. They're great guys. I love those guys to death. Their music is insanely good. And I'm very proud of the music I was able to make with them.
Are they still together?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're now a 3-piece, so it's I think it's Andrew who's bass or was bass, now is vocals. And then they got Brad as lead, and then they have Brandon who replaced me. So it's a 3-piece, and they're doing really well.
Mish was originally the singer.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, Mish.
Okay. What's he doing now?
You know what? I haven't really kept talk with a lot of the guys. Only a couple of them, right? But Mish, I think he's doing some solo stuff. I could be wrong. I'm probably paraphrasing at this point, but yeah, I don't know. People fall off. That's what it really comes down to.
Yeah. Oh, you're telling the goat of people falling off from.
I know, literally.
Yeah.
Literally, but no, like nothing against like I said, I get no hard feelings for any. Or any like hate against any band who's taking the direction differently or something like that. But I think during the Way the Anchor days, it got to a point where I just kind of wanted to do it for fun, and it was starting to go up and down and up and down, and we were getting like TV offers from like local Hamilton TV. We played for them.
Like CHCH
yep.
thing? Yeah.
Yeah, we did the morning live. That was interesting.
Yeah, I did that too. That was fun. They didn't tell you to turn down, did they?
No.
No, they didn't tell us.
Because they can mix it.
Yeah. They get it.
But they're
8 a.m. in the morning?
Yeah. I can't remember what I asked their sound guy, but he looked at me like I was a fucking idiot. And because I think I had my SPD pad, and I was just like, are we able to do a test on this? Because I have bass drops. And he just looked at me and he was just like, really, man? And I'm just like, don't worry about it. Like, don't plug it in. You're not going to hear it on TV anyways. Like, unless you have like a 5.1 surround sound system. Yeah, right? So, but yeah, there was a lot of politics with Way the Anchor on everyone's end. It was tough, but it was eye-opening, and I had my fun. Obviously, I have no regrets doing it. I made some of my favorite music, at least with that first EP, and then I think it just came to I needed to start growing up a little bit more because I just landed a full-time job, first time ever, and I'm 26 years old.
I mean, that's
hard.
I think that's the case for a lot of
Yeah.
majorly successful bands, main stage Warped Tour bands are getting to these points now in their lives where they're like, all right, I'm 28 years old and I'm about to go apply for my first full-time job.
Right.
So, I mean, I see where you're coming from on that, but I think that, like, growing up is a hard word to use because I would argue that you had way more travel and social experiences than most 26-year-olds applying
100%.
for their fifth full-time job, you know?
Yeah. I've been around.
And like it's all part of the ride. You learn you learn about politics just like you learn about politics playing semi-pro sports or like competitive rep sports.
Yeah.
And you learn, you know, how to be a team player and you learn how to travel on the road with a bunch of dudes in a bus van.
Yeah. I think another part of it was you see a lot of shit on the road. You see a lot of shitty people and their antics and
people's true colors for sure.
Exactly. And I think that's the reason why we named that first record True Colors with Way the Anchor.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
It was just like that whole record was based on having, I think Mish wrote it basically about having a shitty roommate and them breaking up basically. So I was just like, cool, let's name it True Colors and call it a day. Yeah,
it's like people say you should never go into a renting situation or renting contract, be a roommate with your best friend because you'll ruin your relationship with your best friend. You'll end up hating that person.
Exactly. And yeah, I looked at it as like, you meet a lot of, like, over time, I became a pretty neutral-headed guy when it came down to, you know, politics in the scene and, you know, especially with, you know, the couple thousand allegations a year with, you know, the misconducts and stuff like that. And I just looked at it as like, fuck, I know a lot of people and I've seen a lot of people and what if that's one of them? Like, it's just... You can never be so careful and cautious about, you know, who you surround yourself with because it can be done like that.
Yeah, I see that side. I could see your point on that.
Yeah.
But also, I have seen a lot of good people all over the place that
100%.
That also get like misaccused of something that, like, you know, was just an argument that turned out to be, all right, I'm gonna say you did something that you didn't do, or they just didn't like the way that this person undermined them, so they're gonna go and attack them in a really vicious, cancel culture-y way. So there's two sides to every story, and that's why I'm always like really careful and just go off my perspective of what I know of that person.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I don't think anyone should be judged for giving anyone the benefit of the doubt, not only a second chance, but like the benefit of the doubt of like, well, what if they didn't like the fact that this person was telling that person how to run their band or something? It's like there's so many different ways that a lot of things could be misconstrued. But then I've also run into a lot of people where I'm like, every time I'm around this guy, I just get like really bad vibes and they seem to be having nothing but success and it like irks me. And then sometimes stuff comes out about them or sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, there's my timer. At the end of the day, you're always going to get what goes around comes around. And I mean, I've had some really shitty moments too, where I've just been like, I'm so sick of this person that I'm on tour with, or is like, you know, doing things to me in a really like passive aggressive way that I don't even understand. I didn't even understand until now.
Yeah. I think like a lot of it was I was overlooking a lot of those situations too, and I kept associating myself with, you know, with those, you know, those toxic people at the time, because I was, you know, when you play in a band, you connect with everyone and everyone's your friend, and that one friend gets canceled and you're just like, what happened? What do you do, right? So I think I just decided to step away from that element of the scene.
Oh, so you're saying that's part of the recipe of like the screw this?
Yeah, it was just like I said. I have a lot of friends that, have been through those, accusations or misconducts and stuff like that. And, I stay out of it, obviously. But when people come to you and you're like, oh, you're friends with that guy. Well, fuck you, buddy.
That's stupid to me.
And I'm like, okay. So that's why I've been kind of keeping it down low. It's kind of, I don't know if it's a stupid reason. I think it's a pretty reasonable reason, because I don't want my reputation. I don't want my reputation as a musician, as a person, even to even have that splinter of doubt in it, just because I'm still associated with X.
Yeah. No, it's
right?
it's a common fear, and it's understandable.
Yeah, because maybe person X has a connection with someone who's a lot, like higher up in the scene.
Yeah. Then
he loses that contact, and it's just like it snowballs into nothing.
Yeah, there's no point in burning bridges ever, for sure.
Yeah.
Unless you're directly harmed by someone, then you can choose to not associate with them.
Yeah. So I for those situations, and I've thankfully haven't been given shit for it, only here and there, but yeah.
I mean, I've always thought you were a really neutral person when it came to even band decisions and what's going to be going on. I mean, as soon as someone's stepping on your toes, then you'll speak up. But until then, you're just kind of easygoing about it.
Yeah, I like seeing both sides of the spectrum. I like seeing, especially before I make my final judgment call on something. I was in a band at one point and they actually just released a new song, which is really good. But I was in a band, they're called Thieves, really good guys. Chris from Roadside actually is in that band now.
Oh, nice.
But it took us almost a year for us to even start doing something and get into a studio. And
sure,
we never played a show together. I looked at it more as a session work, realistically, because it was this guy Travis. He already had this music recorded. He just wanted to go out and play shows and do it. Kind of like what you would have been doing back in the day.
But he was basically in development with the band for a year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we finally went into studio in Brampton and banged out, I think it was a song or maybe two. I can't remember. And then after that, nothing happened. We didn't talk to each other after that.
Do you know why? Or did he end up going in a different direction?
I think what happened, and I could be wrong, because after that I was whatever, I don't care, because I don't have beef with anyone. I don't do that. It's a waste of my time. I think what he did was he went on tour out to the Maritime provinces, because he got family out there. So he did a little bar tour out there just to be hey, yeah, we got some music coming out. I got a band now. But he didn't tell us. So me and the guitarist were just that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Why didn't he tell us? And anyway, after that, I was just okay, let him do his thing. Could
have just been a hard conversation that he just decided to not have. It's easier to just not do anything about it.
I think it came down to scheduling as well, because I can't remember where I was working. Probably Costco and Z103 at the time.
I didn't know you worked at Costco.
Yeah.
Right on.
Sucked.
Really?
Got hit with a bay door and got fired.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't tell you about that.
You got fired for getting hit by the door.
Yeah.
So you don't work for them anymore, so you can spill the tea on them.
Yeah, interesting. But yeah, it came down to scheduling and money, and I think I was the only one who actually had a job in that band at one point. So I'm well, I'm not fronting all the money for this guy's project. Fuck that. It just didn't make sense to me anymore. So I think after we recorded that song, I was just okay, cool. It's one more song under my belt. If it gets released, it gets released. I think the guy started a band with I hate naming names. I'm not even going to name names, but he started another band out in Hamilton with a couple of local legends out there, and then left that band. And that band released all his songs under their new name.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And then that was just like, I was like, wow, what just happened? Like this, all the songs that I helped also write were on this new record, and I know the guy fairly well. I was just like, yo, like what's the deal here? Like, what happened? And obviously everyone's got politics about it. I can't really spill any tea about it because I don't know anything, but it came it sounded like the most toxic scenario ever, and I was just like, I guess it's a good thing that I'm not doing this project anymore, because it's like you see people's true colors. Bingo. You don't know who you can really trust or see. I haven't talked to Travis, who's the main guy for Thieves. I haven't really talked to him since. Once in a while he'll shoot me a line and I'll be like, yeah, cool, what's good? But they just released new music. It's really good. I'm playing drums on it, and it's kind of cool hearing that
those drum tracks
I'm still relevant in 2020, baby. After not playing shows for 3 years. But yeah, no, it's cool. It's like I said, I can't beef with anyone, especially if they're giving me a credit for it. So it's, it is what it is. I'm not in that band. I don't really care if I'm in that band. I'm retired.
Do you know if they have a new drummer? Or I guess
I have no idea.
They're not touring. They're not playing shows. Yeah. At least not anytime soon.
Yeah, I think they just released like a 2-song vinyl, which is interesting. Power to them for doing that. Vinyls are super expensive, especially if you don't have a label backing you.
For sure. Yeah.
It's probably like $40 $40 a vinyl to make.
Yeah, they're like 12 or 13 if you're doing a short run.
Yeah. So, I mean, power to them. Hell yeah, it looks sick. Would I do it? Fuck no. Like, I couldn't do that. It's just but yeah, I don't know. That's what I mean. I got different opinions than what other people do, and when I'm not going to step on people's toes for having their soul set on this project or this idea. For sure, yeah. Right? But when it comes down to my decision, it's just like, cool. If I don't think it makes sense, then I'm just going to move on from it. Yeah. Right? You could get to a point in your musical career where you get used to that. Yeah. It's like, and I'm sure you've gone through that with the early Rosedale days. Yeah, you in the early days, you're so attached to something, and you see all the potential in something, and you think, wow, we have these songs, these are our babies, and we've created these, and they're so important to us. Yeah. And then by, year 6 or 7, you're like, we could always just go write a new album in a month or a week and probably be better than our last one. So that's not important. And then when it comes to members, it's like, yeah, they're coming and going, and it's more whatever as that goes too. And then you reach a point where you're like, I mean, personally, I just ended up learning through all the avenues of songs that had potential and died, members that had potential and died, label opportunities that had potential and died, that you're best to just do it yourself as much as you can while you can. Enjoy and learn from it. Enjoy making all this stuff by yourself, like I've been doing the last few years, and it's more fun that way. And you end up actually getting more contacts and friends and networking being a lonely DIY guy than you do having these like 4 or 5 guys in the van with you at all times. You end up kind of just being in this bubble that can very quickly become toxic. Yeah, well, it's, you know what, like, because I've been a fan of Rosedale since I was a kid. Like, I was probably 13, 14 years old. That's because, you had Zan and Mitch in the band. I grew up with those guys. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, this is the biggest band in the world. Fuck yeah, like, I love this shit. And then I was in guitar class. I think I was learning one of your songs, and then someone overheard it and was like, yo, you know the band like just broke up, right? And I freaked the fuck out. It wasn't the case, obviously, because you're still, you still trucked along for the next 10 years. But all I remember was that happening, and I'm like, how the fuck can a band play without another guitarist and another and a bassist? Like, how do you do that? I didn't know anything about Pro Tools or Ableton at the time. I was just like, it's smoke and mirrors, right?
Right.
But I think when that all went down, I was just like, damn, I don't, like, what's going to happen with Mike and Emo? And then you guys played that show at All Stars right after, like the week later.
Yeah, I think where we took like half an hour to set up for some reason.
Yeah, and I was just like,
dumb.
I was like, all right, this is sick. This is interesting because I'd never seen something like that before. That's almost like, it's basically Death from Above.
Yeah, and then, I mean, 21 Pilots made it the biggest
thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of the intro to me realizing that, hey, you know what? Not every piece of stress thrown your way is a bad thing. You can get through to the other side, and it's going to be brighter on the other side if you just learn how to get there.
Yeah.
That was like the first example. I felt so good playing that show and having all the success that me and Emo had after that.
Yeah.
It was like, this is so great. And we did it after losing half our band. Like, we thought that was the worst moment for us. Or when we lost Steve, our singer.
Yeah.
We were like,
that's right.
There was a lot of local kids who were heartbroken about that. That was like some of the best vocals coming out of Brampton was from this guy. And now he had just left the band. And now I didn't realize that I had this, heavy monkey on my shoulders of being the new singer. But, I ended up going to Steve's coach, and coming out of that was way brighter on the other side. And then losing Emo because, he wanted to just like go to LA and not even tell me. It was like, I remember that too. That was a huge knife in the heart. That was like, this was my brother for half of my life. Yeah. And then to come out as a one-man show and get people like Warped Tour being like, come on in, you're playing the stage now. It's like that. I kept being reminded of this roller coaster. That's like, if you can just get through this downtime, the next up is going to be that much higher. Yeah. So I always try and instill that with people. Maybe we can all learn from that from COVID. Maybe at the end of this year there's something great coming, or maybe next year is like your, losing your job in 2020 created the new life of 2021 that you're going to cherish for the next decade.
I'm just trying to think when did that when did Get Going come out?
2007? No, 9. Early 2009.
We're a year late, buddy. Could have did a 10-year.
Oh, of Get Going? Well, it's funny. Another like huge, oh my God, I want to kill myself was literally 2016. I went on tour with this kid Stan and his buddy Christian. Yeah. And Stan is such a funny kid. Love that dude. And like everyone, I was like, boot camp boys, we got to do this. And like you were really good about that.
Yeah, let's get it.
And so, I always put that fire on him, and he was always really good about it. But then he had some, mental health issues that made me seem like a devil, and which, to be fair, I probably could have been a lot lighter on him and all my other bandmates. But out of nowhere, his mom shows up in Philadelphia, picks him up and Christian, and they leave me for the rest of the tour. And that was,
I didn't know that.
That was the 10-year anniversary of Pastimes, and we learned for a month down here
the whole thing.
We learned 30 songs, some covers, and which for Rosedale songs, especially the old ones, were like they're kind of a ridiculous structure. Yeah. We learned the 8-minute version of You'll Count to 10 to play as the 10-year anniversary for, our 10 people in Pennsylvania that were excited to see it and shit like that. Go so hard for such small shows. Yeah. But yeah, 7 shows into that tour after a month of getting those guys up to speed. they went home like, yeah, dude, sorry, like we just can't do it.
Yeah.
And then the rest of that tour was like the beginning of, all right, I'm going to figure out a way to do this as a one-man show from now on, because
the Mike Liorti projector tour.
Well, I didn't have the projector yet.
Oh no, that was like,
but that was that tour. It was
head.
stirring up in my head, and I was contacting the venues from there on out, saying,
they had a screen.
Hey, no, I was just saying like my band left me, so just to let you know, I'm going to be a one man show, because when that happened the year before with Stan, 2015, there was a couple venues I'd show up to. Well, it was just one venue in North San Diego after my friggin' transmission blew and I dropped $5,000 on my van.
That's right.
In the snowstorm. Missed 6 shows. The first show back after driving 16 hours straight on an all-nighter was, hey, we thought you were going to be a band. Pack up your stuff and go home. Like after my first set. It was an afternoon show. It was kind of weird at a biker bar. But like the bar was loving it.
Yeah.
So all these downs, you're reminding me of as you know, we go through our history of being musicians.
There's a lot. There's a lot of stories. There's probably some you haven't told on this podcast yet that we can talk about now. That's
like 1% of them, man. 1% of the hard times right there.
I remember, and this is a scary story. You blowing your appendix.
Yeah. And like, you know,
fucking lunatic.
I'm glad that I have a platform to tell these stories now, because there's so many times where I forgot to tell that story where it would have changed the game. So 2012 in the summer, I played Warped Tour, like best summer of my life.
Yeah,
Warped Tour was like, we love this guy. All the bands loved me.
Yeah.
And then
that was you and Nikhil, wasn't it?
Nikhil came for like 4 or 5.
Dates.
Yeah. Whenever I'd get on a stage, he would come out.
He would go do it. Yeah.
But then that fall, I was like, touring down to Virginia Beach, got a band lined up. Mm-hmm. Everybody wanted to be in Rosedale now. I just played Warped Tour, and all these bands were talking about me.
That's right.
So now I had a great band lined up.
Yeah.
Go to Long Island in December after doing a bunch of touring with a sore stomach at the end of it.
Yeah.
Then I start this tour with a band down the East Coast. Second show in, I check into the hospital. Appendix burst. I'm not playing the rest of that tour. I'm in the hospital over Christmas.
I remember, man.
And so that was such a bad time. And then things started to get better in January, February. I started playing shows again way before I should have.
Yeah.
Met up with that band again, and I was like, fuck all this health shit. I'm getting over this. Yeah. It's going to be brighter on the other side. And then, like, what I mean is, I went back to Warped Tour in 2013 thinking, this is going to be great. They're going to give me a pass again. I'm going to start getting on stages again.
Yeah.
And I remember Lisa asked me, so how's your year been? What have you been up to? Yeah. And I just blanked. Like, I forgot to tell her. I almost died. My appendix burst. I just told her, oh, it's been good. I've had a lot of musicians like join the band and stuff. You know, I'm 23 years old. I'm not really I'm not really thinking like, hey, you should tell her about the appendix and stuff, because that's like a really crucial story as to why.
That would be a great success story.
Because if that didn't happen, that whole year would have been completely different. Coming off of Warped Tour with all this hype, that was kind of like that really like brought me back down to, you know, this localitis status of not being able to tour anymore and not having a band anymore. And the first couple months back, I was like getting by on painkillers, not the best mic. I remember we were jamming.
I remember.
We wrote
Gray some of the record,
and
Thin
Ice during those days.
That's right. We wrote a lot of bangers during that period of your life.
But then, so leading up to that summer, I had Brian Zawacki and Christian Zawacki with me.
Yeah.
2013 Warped Tour, thinking, guys, this is going to be great. And I think Warped Tour just was like, no, you're not getting it. Like, the fact that you were this one-man DIY show
made it acceptable.
Is why we were like, this is what punk rock is. This is what Warped Tour is all about. Now we're showing up with a light show, a drum riser, and they're like, we miss the old Rosedale. At least I got that vibe.
Yeah. It is what it is at the end of the day. I look at it as like, how many people on this planet as a DIY musician get to play a full Warped Tour, basically.
Yeah.
Not many.
No, and I mean it was of my own doing in a sense, because I was literally, it was like a video game, and this is how we should wrap up the last 8 minutes here, is the video game that I talked about.
I've heard.
I want to hear your input on the video game. So every morning I was basically going in, and it was like Tony Hawk Underground. I was walking around to all the stages like, hey, you guys got anything for me today? Can I play like a little 25-minute slot at the acoustic basement? Oh, go talk to the Digitech stage. They'll put you up. Oh, I already talked to them. No, they're not down. Go talk to Digitech stage again. Anyone canceled today? No. But I heard that I can't remember all the stage names that year, but there were so many little stages that you could end up just playing under a tent with a PA.
I think Kevin Says was the most popular, like. That one, like, everyone played on it at one point.
Well, that was the big ticket for me, is like, all right, we'll put you on Kevin Says in Toronto. That'll be your hometown hero show.
Yeah, and that was a good one. That was a lot, because I think you played, and then July played, We Were Sharks played. That was probably like the biggest ticket, because I think July they just got signed and they released their.
But that was 2013. So that was when I was kind of
Christian and
I was a bit of a pest that year to them. I was kind of overstepping my boundaries, admittedly, because now I had this band, and now I thought that it was going to be like last year where I could just ask all these questions, and it probably would have been like that had I not been so like, hey, I was allowed to do this last year, why can't I do it this year? And the fact that like over the last year we gave you all these opportunities and you didn't do anything with them. Well, the factor was I almost died. My appendix burst, and I couldn't even control that. I was touring constantly until that happened, and things were picking up. And then after that, it was like I had a rough 2013.
Yeah,
man.
No, that's. I always thought you were like insane for doing it like that, like right after the appendicitis. Because I was like, this guy's got to take a break. This guy's got to like.
Yeah, I think it was like January 13th was my first show back after that was like my appendix burst. December 12th?
Yeah, you were. I remember because I remember visiting you here, and like you had just got your stitches out or something like that, and then like a month later you had your hernia surgery.
2 years later.
It was 2 years later. But even still, I was just like a week after that. I think you were going back out, and I was just like.
Yeah, I remember that first week out, I was literally on stage like, fuck, I think that's how the hernia happens. I could feel like it's scar tissue, so it was numb, but I could feel like when I was really giving her 20 minutes into the set that something wasn't right down there still. And like, luckily, I had a band helping me carry a lot of the heavy stuff, but
you get a lot of shit.
with the adrenaline, you think, oh yeah, I'm back to normal, let's go. And then sometimes I'd like lay in bed at night like, frig, this scar is not good.
Yeah.
So that's how the hernia. I did get the hernia like a few months later, but I didn't get the surgery until 2 years later.
You should add that aspect into the video game.
So that's what I'm saying is we have all these stories. So like you can, and it's like the Goosebumps novels. You can choose one way or the other.
Yeah.
But the video game is so advanced. AI has gotten so good that there's a path set up for the Mikey Yorke going through all the different bands and like having to get home from tour and join another tour.
That's the DLC package.
Yeah, so there's that path. There's obviously getting denied at the border and them cutting open all your bags.
Man, if that video game ever comes out, I'm never going to the Michigan border as long as I live. It's not happening. I know what to do now. Yeah. Don't pack so many socks.
Yeah, now you know that border's hard. Well, and also like being a touring musician is kind of becoming so obsolete, if that's the right word, thing of the past. Because I mean, this year no one's been able to do it.
Right off.
Who knows if like in 10 years from now there's going to be this new way that came out of this where by some chance touring is only for the Michael Jacksons and the huge names, or maybe it becomes like everybody's a resident, and if you like a band from Sweden, you have to go to Sweden to see that band. or something like that. So maybe the touring musician, it's like Red Dead Redemption, where it's like riding around on a horse and stealing fur and taking over tribes.
Yeah,
is like that was the 1800s or whatever. You know,
this is the future.
Maybe rock and roll was just the thing that happened in the late 1900s, early 2000s that we'll look back in history and be like, yeah, it was like this form of art where people would like go see a traveling act. It was like, people would really devote their lives to their art. Look at this guy. He takes a bunch of shots from a paintball for a music video. Isn't that weird?
That's a good one too. That was a legendary moment.
Yeah, like in the video game, you have to make a creative music video.
Was that before or after the appendicitis?
So that was right before the surgery. So
that's probably what happened.
The story with that is I had the lump on my stomach from the hernia.
Yeah.
And that's not.
Oh, okay.
So that was after the appendix.
After. Yeah, okay.
But I had the hernia.
Yeah.
And then they were like, all right, we're gonna have to schedule you for surgery before you leave for a tour. Yeah. So we'll do it in like October. Yeah. And then I took that as shit. We have to shoot this video before the hernia surgery in October. So like I hurried up and got in like the best shape I could in like 3 weeks, which was not that great. No. And then I shot the video with the hernia. Yeah. Well, we did the test shots on like my back. Yeah. To see if the color would work. That's and like brutal. Get everything set up and see if the skin would work and all that. Yeah. And it killed. So then I went to the hernia specialist or whatever to do your like pre-meeting a week before you actually go for the surgery. And they were like, what are these welts on your back? Like, I'm like, oh, my friends shot me with a paintball gun. Like it's for a video. And they were like, oh, you got some friends. So then we did that. And then we shot the video right after I did that test. And right after I did the checkup thing or whatever, the pre-meeting. So now I'm covered with welts.
Oh my God.
And then so I guess it was like 2 or 3 weeks after that I had to quickly get them to heal. So I was rubbing like vitamin E all over my body every day. Aloe. Yeah. I had literally an aloe plant that I'd be dripping all over my stomach every day. People are like, why don't you just wear a shirt, dude? I'm like, I must heal. Yeah. And then I went for the hernia surgery and they're like, why did you gain 25 pounds and you're covered in welts? I'm like, well, I haven't been exercising as much anymore. And I've been trying to heal really quick because I got shot for this video. And they were like, yeah, I don't know if we can do the surgery. And they ended up doing it anyway. But that's probably a big reason why they didn't give me any painkillers. Yeah. They gave me like a tiny bit of morphine for the first couple days. Yeah. And then they just let me suffer because they probably thought, this guy's insane. If we give him any pain medication.
He's not going to feel it.
Or there was that. I had a tolerance from the appendix. Yeah. But they probably just thought, this guy's crazy and we probably shouldn't give him any
he don't opioids. Need no drugs.
Yeah, that too.
He don't need that. This guy just got melted with 170 something paintballs? No, it was more than that, wasn't it?
I forget what it was now. I think it was 100. It says in the video 114. Yeah. Because I think the record was 126. I think it was because I think the record was 118. Right. And I remember counting and being like, wow, I guess I broke the record. And I didn't even know what it was. Yeah. Damn. But
legendary stories. There's still more.
Yeah.
I think we need a part 2 for this, buddy. This is gonna be
well, I'm glad we got it in before. I'm sorry I couldn't get you on earlier. I had a bunch of I'm glad that we can have like a hangout more of a hangout podcast because I was trying to promote a lot of friends' products and stuff coming up for Christmas, and that's going to be the next one. But this one was more of like a hangout that maybe people can relate to, get a little inspiration out of, and
no boot camp or tears needed in this podcast. Yep. Yeah, like 2012. That was good. It's been fun, man.
We should have documented that 2012
There's some video. There's
Well, I mean, there's you playing "Take on Me," but that's coming out of the tunnel.
I was just, now that you bring that up, I was watching or rewatching that video on YouTube, and just the sheer look of fear on my face is hilarious. Because I'm just like, I don't want to fuck up Mike's songs. Now I would just be like, yeah, fuck off, Mike. Let me play what I want. Come on. But no, it's been wild, man. We've had. You know what? I'm honored that I'm here doing this with you because I grew up as a fan, and even just growing up as, you know, you're one of my mentors. So this is it's cool. It's cool to see that you're still kicking around and still doing the damn thing.
Yeah, man. I'm honored to have you on, and it was cool to see you.
There's a lot of stories left.
You know, continue on as a musician, and I was always rooting for you, and I still am. I'm still watching. You got a good voice now, and it's only getting better. And I got some vocalies for you today as well.
Oh man, it's gonna
can't forget that.
It's gonna make me sing like an angel.
Yep. It's gonna
the honey.
Bring
Ginger.
down any inflammation. It's only one flavor that it comes in, but it's.
I like it.
Yeah, all natural ingredients, honey.
You can tell that I sound like I smoke a pack of cigarettes a day, which is not the case.
No, I think it sounds authentic, and you've found your voice, and you're owning it.
It's very weathered, and I wear a mask all day. Wear your mask.
Wear your mask, everyone. You heard it here for the 100th time. Keep on wearing that mask.
Mask up or shut up.
Right on, man. Well, thanks for doing it.
All right, brother.
Thanks for coming by.
Appreciate it.
And until part 2, keep the dream alive. Follow Mike James Yorke, is it, on Instagram? On
everything.
I'll post it in the video too, but if you're not watching, Mike James Yorke with an E after the K, Yorke. If you're not Canadian, you don't know that kind of stuff. Follow him on Instagram, see his fun little covers, and give him a little like and share if you dig.
If you want.
You'll like the songs he's covering too. There's some catchy tunes.
Some good ones.
You're introducing me to a lot of new music by doing those covers. So those bands owe you a thank you.
Yeah. Hopefully Instagram doesn't body me like they did last month. So.
Oh, really? That's the thing? Well, we'll see how that goes on the next. That'll be part of part 2.
That's part 2.
All right.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
And there you have it. Mike James Yorke. Thank you so much for being on the show, buddy. It was good catching up. It was good going over all those stories and reminiscing. It's crazy how much I actually forgot, and it's all like flooding back to me as I'm editing this podcast. I'm supposed to learn from my past, but I just forget 90% of it apparently. Anyway, thank you so much for checking out this podcast. Thank you to Vocalese for supporting our voices. You can get your very own bottle of Vocalese at this link for 15% off, as well as all their other natural remedies for singing and being a musician and life in general. Christmas is just around the corner. I hope you're all ready and staying safe and happy and healthy and productive. Thank you again for checking this out, and be sure to subscribe, follow, like, click the notification bell, leave a comment. All that stuff really helps. Follow Mikey Yorke, Mike James Yorke on Instagram, and I'll see you next week for another episode of State of My Art Podcast.